Hello computer science enthusiasts. Today we're going to be going over basic Python syntax and also how to log in and use Repl.it. The first point we're going to be going over for Python basics is data types. There are three main types: strings, integers, and floats. Strings can be represented with quotes, so singular or double, and they're usually just a list of characters. So like in this case, it's name. An integer is a number without a decimal, like 123. Floats are numbers with decimals, and that's like 3.14. And just for vocabulary, the command area is the area where you execute your code, where the code is executed, and where you can call variables, functions, and classes and such. Program area is going to be the area where you actually code. So you can assign values to variables, you can create functions, and you just generally have program in your program area, and you have execution in your command area. Variables are identified unknowns that are assigned a data type or structure. So like in our previous slide, we went over data types, strings, integers, and floats. In variables, we're going to be assigning those strings, integers, or floats to the variables. An equal sign means is assigned, so string example is assigned name, integer example is assigned 123, float example is assigned 3.14. And when we call those variables, or we find the value of that variable, it's going to print out the values right there. And notice that the strings are in quotes. If you want to print, meaning display, your values of variables, or just display anything really, you can put the variables within the print statement, and they're just going to print them out like this. You can also just put data types or data structures within the print statement, and they'll get the same response. So if you get the name in quotes, so the string, and you put it in there, it's going to get name without quotes. And no quotes are displayed for strings. This is useful because if we're going to be asking a question or just stating something through the print statement or an input statement or anything like that where you have a display, you want to have the question asked or the statement stated. You don't want quotes around them. Operations. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division are all the same as mathematics, meaning that addition adds, 1 plus 1 is 2, subtraction subtracts, so 5 minus 3 is 2, same thing for multiplication, 4 times 8 is 32, but 12 divided by 3 is going to be 4.0. The reason why, and this is the float output because there's a decimal in the number, is because of accuracy. Division often gets a decimal output, so you usually want to have a float output to have an accurate output. I'm going to repeat that a bunch of times. So 6.6 repeating has a lot more accuracy than just 6 or just 7. And this is shown for 20 divided by 3 when it's not an even divide. When you have a float with the operations, the output is also going to be a float. So 1 point is plus 3 is going to be 4.0, is going to go to the 10th, and 1.3 minus 3.5 is going to be negative 2.2. Operations continued. You're going to have the base. So these are just general basics. There are more, but these are just good ones to know. The shortcut for power is going to be 2 stars. So x star star y raises the x to the yth power. So it's x to the y. So the example here we have 3 squared is 9, 2 cubed is 8. Mod is going to be the remainder when x is divided by y. So 6 divided by 2 is going to be just 3. So because 2 goes into 6 3 times, there's 0 left for remainder, so you get 0. 2 goes into 7 3 times, but has 1 left, so 1 is going to be the remainder. 8 goes into 3 0 times, so 3 is going to be the remainder. And as a rule of thumb, if the divisor is greater than the dividend, so the number on the right is greater than the number on the left, the output is going to be the number on the left because the number on the right goes into the number on the left 0 times whole. And this is the demonstration of PEMDAS. If you just look at this, you might think, oh, it's 36 raised to the 1/2 power. That's just equal to the square root of 36. That would be 6. But in this case, we're following PEMDAS, parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. We're going to follow the exponent rule and then the division rule. So 36 raised to the power of 1 is 36. Then we're going to be dividing by 2. That's 18. Notice that it is a float output. That's because, as we covered in the other operations, division is going to have a float output. And when a float is used, a float will always be the output. So 36 to the first power is 36. Divided by 2 is 18. And we're going to be rounding to the 10th power. For operations in strings, in terms of strings, the main two concatenating operations are going to be addition, or not addition, just the plus sign and the comma. The plus sign is just going to immediately concatenate them together, the strings together. So hello there, no spaces. The comma is going to do the same, but add a space. You can also manually add the space if you don't want to use a comma. You can also use a combination between the commas and the addition. And you can see the difference here. Hello, there's a space, but there and the exclamation mark, there is no space. So let's go over how to log in and use Repl.it. So as you can see here, this is going to be the main page when you type in Repl.it in your search bar. First, what you're going to want to do is click sign up. Once you do, you can log in with Google. That's the easiest way. But when you log into Google, make sure you don't use your school account and use a different account, I guess. And when you log in with your non-school account, you're going to go and click the plus sign. This plus sign is going to have a pop-up, and you have the option to change the language and also create your name. Our predominant language is going to be Python for these videos, and the name, just try to name it anything that makes sense. If you don't name it, Repl.it is going to find a creative name to substitute it. Once you get into your program, you can click Run to run your program, and this is after you actually have code, because there is often an issue where people code and then when they look on the program side, nothing is running or nothing's happening. And that's because the program actually hasn't been run, it hasn't been read, and it hasn't been executed. So make sure that whenever you write code and you're trying to test it, click the run. And when you do click the run, you'll see that on the right, there will be nothing. There'll be the Python 3.82 before, 3.8.2, and on the right, there will be nothing. And you'll also know if the program is still running when the top here is going to display stop and a square, but grayed out. This is the autofill function for Repl.it. This is not the most useful, in my opinion. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to type in a letter or just a portion of a code phrase, I guess, and it's going to show all of the matching functions, the matching syntax, all of that. And this is mainly useful if you forgot how it works, maybe the definition of it, or the parameters. So in this case, pow, this was the one, this is the power function. So base, exponent, and mod. These are going to be the parameters, and our shortcut is just 2 stars. So you really don't need to do this, unless you want to use the third parameter. In that case, feel free to do so. The more useful feature is going to be just having the definition shown, and you can just hover over after you write down the function. So print, you hover over your mouse over it, and it's going to have a pop-up right here, and it's just going to show what the parameters are and also what the definition is. You might need to highlight it like I did here, but chances are you won't. But it does take a decent while to pop up because usually you would know like what the functions do. So I guess Repl.it doesn't want to have that pop-up shown every single time. If you want to share your program, you can click share on the top right, and you have 3 different ways to invite other people. You can invite them through username, email, or just with a link. The link works really well. It's worked every time I've used it. The username sometimes doesn't update, especially if the accounts are new. And email also, it was a little finicky for me, but you still can test it. And also the file feature. So this is just a feature, really should be a feature in all platforms. When you get into it, maybe downloading maybe VS Code. You can create a file by clicking this icon. You can create a folder by clicking this icon. When you click a file, remember to name it, and you can name it for Python two main different domains. So you have .txt, and this is best for organizing data, or .py, which is going to be a separate program. So the reason why I called it module is because that's what the term is like depicted. So a module is a subprogram. So whatever is happening in here, you can just reference it in the main program. So as an example, we can have a variable. We can call it the string hello from the other pi. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the main.py and we're going to import the module. We're going to import whatever functions, variables, and in this case there's only one variable, and we're going to print module.variable. In this case it's going to be hello from the other pi, which is what was right here. So you can also do this with functions, classes, whatever you feel fit. And this is just going to save the code, because if you have a long variable or if you have a long function, you can just call the function and you don't need to have it defined in the main.py because you defined it with the import module and the module defines it. If you would like to roll back, if you have some errors in your code and it's just like permanent bugs and it's just all a mess, you can go back in time. And the main way you can do it is click on this icon. This hasn't really worked for me, but this has definitely worked and I've used it before. It's the play symbol with the arrow going counterclockwise. This is going to pop up this page where you're going to have your main.py, the file, and it's going to show the different past versions of it. Since this is new, there's only one version. But what you can do is you can click on one of the versions, then revert back to that version, back to when it was working before. If you have a reference, if you have a person who can just proofread your code, that's probably the better option. But if you're independent or if they can't help you or if you can't fix the code or it's just like everywhere, reverting back is probably a good last resort. Finally, you can go into settings and here you can change, and this is mainly vanity, change the layout, theme, font size, indent type, things like that. For this example, we're just going to change the theme from light to dark, from just internet experience, I guess. The dark theme is superior to the light theme in almost all facets, but for instructional purposes, we'll be sticking with the light theme because I like pain. Okay. So if you have any questions for the Python basics or just how to log in or use Repl.it, feel free to ask in the comments below. And I hope you have a wonderful day.